What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of my podcast, Happy Days, with me, Callum Church. As you can probably tell from, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I'm not actually in my normal setup back at home. I'm actually up in Egham, staying with my girlfriend now that things are a little bit more open in the UK COVID-wise. And what this sort of brings me on to is what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode of the podcast. I could have easily taken a couple of weeks off from doing the podcasting, a couple of weeks off doing my freelance work, which I also do alongside this, and I could have made an excuse to not crack on with things, not keep pursuing what I believe to be is my purpose, what I believe to be is my real core passion, talking about self-development with awesome people, such as you guys that are listening to this right now. So what I could have done is easily held myself back for a couple of weeks, but I've made the active choice not to do that, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode of the podcast. I'm going to be talking about the person who is usually holding yourself back in your life, and this person is usually yourself, right? And this might be a little bit difficult for a few people to really take on board and accept, because we don't like to think of ourselves as people that are holding ourselves back. We like to think of ourselves as, I don't know, maybe driven or maybe victim. Some people might have a victim mindset, but we really need to slash this, get rid of it, because we are not victims here. We are people who are going to make it happen, and we're going to stop ourselves from holding ourselves back. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about in today's episode is being open to change, because what a lot of people do to subconsciously hold themselves back in their lives is they're actually filling their lives up with stuff, right? We've got too much stuff on board that, our arms can't physically carry it all, and we're not actually able to take on more things, new things, maybe even better things. An example of this might be that you are in a toxic relationship, okay? You know that perhaps you're with a person and you know that it's not a long-term thing. Maybe you're with a person and you don't have any long-term plans, or maybe you just don't know that you want to live with that person in the future, right? Well, some people might stay in that relationship because they're scared of change, or they don't want to allow themselves to be vulnerable enough to be open to the uncertainty of something new. This is something which holds people back. Some people are scared too much of the uncertainty and not open enough to the change. They will stay with that toxic partner longer than they need to, and in doing this, they're keeping that partner slot in their lives totally full the whole time. You see, what would be better for them would be to, cut that toxic person out their lives. Tell them it's over, block the contact, and move on. Start focusing on yourself. Start focusing on opening yourself up, opening that slot up to someone new, someone better, someone more healthy, someone that's going to give you some fulfillment in your life. See, this is one of the ways in which people, hold themselves back. How else do we hold ourselves back? Here's a big one. Excuses. We are constantly making excuses for ourselves and holding ourselves back. What we need to be doing, really, is follow your heart. I've spoken to a couple people on other people's podcasts recently, and a typical question which comes up on podcasts, also comes up on mine, is what's the one piece of advice that you give to people? A lot of the time, I say follow your heart, okay? And what do I mean by this? I just mean follow what feels right for you. Follow, what in your core, in your heart of hearts, would be best for you, or you want to explore at the very least, Because when people aren't following their hearts, they're always making excuses for themselves. They're not just throwing themselves into that. And let me tell you, there will always be an excuse, but there's not always going to be an opportunity. Okay? We can constantly come up with excuse after excuse after excuse, but there's not always going to be opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So don't miss out. Stop making excuses for yourselves. What are some of the typical excuses we make for ourselves? Here's some, okay? We are scared of failure. People, afraid of approaching something new or approaching something different, or maybe even a little bit scary because they are scared of failure. But this is a good thing. Failure is awesome, because in every moment that you're failing, you're learning. You're growing as a person. If you set up a new business and that business fails miserably, then let me tell you, that's a good thing. That is a really good... If you look at some of the most successful people in the world, they have, started multiple businesses. It's very rare for a top entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, to make it big, to make that big success in their life with the first business they set up. A lot of the time they fail beforehand because they have to go through that in order to learn. So don't be afraid of failure. Approach failure. Enjoy failure in some ways, okay? What's another excuse that people make which holds themselves back? They don't have the money. Don't have the money to set up a business. Don't have the money to go travelling. These kinds of things. But that's the thing. Chances are you probably have money. You probably have savings. And look, I'm not saying go splurge all your life savings on something stupid. I'm not saying that. But money shouldn't be a factor which holds us back. Especially in the Western world anyway. In, countries like the UK, the US, Australia, all of these places. Typically, we have savings, right? So we can probably make it work. Let's say you want to go travelling. I spoke to Simon Squibb the other day. It's the most recent episode that came out of the podcast. Go check it out if you haven't done it already. He said, go travelling, because that's something which will really help you to learn. And if you don't have money, that's an excuse. You can always do odd jobs along the way to make it work. You can always throw yourself into that uncertainty, which is ultimately going to help you to maybe find a job out there while you're travelling. Or maybe helps you stay open to opportunities which might be presenting themselves without you realising. Okay? And hey, the way in which money works in the world is that it's supposed to be fluid. We're not supposed to hoard money. We're all hoarders in the world when we start making up all these savings and things like that. Money is supposed to flow. That's its natural state, okay? Money's supposed to flow through us. That's cash flow, right? We're supposed to take in money. Money goes elsewhere, whether that be investments or whether that just be bills, whether that be just splurging for lifestyle, right? That's the way in which money's supposed to work. So don't hoard money. You can always earn that money back. And you never know. If you put a little bit of money into a business, if you put a little bit of money into travelling, that might be the thing which sparks the future success and even more money coming towards you in the future. So that's something which shouldn't hold us back, but ultimately does, is money. So don't let it hold you back. Another excuse, what will people think of me? Oh my God, the amount of times which I have conversations with people saying, how on earth did you start your podcast? How on earth did you start putting yourself out there? Because everyone's so afraid of what others think of them. So what? Okay, so what? This is your life, right? And you're basing your life on what other people think, on what other people want. Ultimately, if you go down that path and you keep living your life according to what other people think of you or what other people want from you, you're not living your life. You're living someone else's life. And ultimately, if you follow that path, you will get to a stage in your future where you resent yourself and you're frustrated with yourself for not being truer to yourself, for not being more authentic, for not following your heart. Because that's what we need to be doing. And unfortunately, most people don't. So don't let that hold you back. Now, here is the greatest excuse of all times. Or maybe I should say the worst. Because this is what holds people back the most. Okay? What is it? 2 little words. Self-belief. People are constantly lacking self-belief in their lives. Constantly lacking self-belief in themselves. And this is something which holds people back far too much. And hey, it's okay if you lack self-belief, because this is a muscle which we can train. We can condition ourselves to get better at believing in ourselves. And hey, you're not actually going to believe in yourself straight away. This is something which you have to train. It is a skill. Self-belief is a skill which you have to train. And how can you do this? Get uncomfortable. This is why I, promote getting outside of our comfort zones more, because where a lack of self-belief comes from is that you don't have enough life experiences. You don't put yourself out there enough. Your comfort zone is tiny, okay? This is your comfort zone is your self-belief zone, by the way. It's you're most comfortable in the things which you believe you can do, right? So if you expand your comfort zone, get a little bit more uncomfortable, and you start exploring the things outside of your comfort zone, just around that bubble of your comfort zone, suddenly the bubble grows. And you take these things in. It's in your comfort zone now. Your comfort zone is bigger. And as a result of that, you have more belief in yourself. So keep pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone. Keep getting uncomfortable. and you'll get there. You'll build that self-belief. So do not let self-belief hold you back. Push the boundaries. I know it's hard, but push the boundaries and you'll get there. You honestly will. So do not let self-belief hold you back. Now, last of all, and this is a big one, something which people might not necessarily think about consciously holding themselves back, right? And this is to be kind to yourself. A lot of people are holding themselves back because they are not kind enough to themselves. What do I mean by this? Let me ask you a question, okay? What would your life look like if you were to look after yourself in the same way that you'd look after your family? In the same way that you'd look after your friends? In the same way that you would look after someone you care about? Okay, because people do not care about themselves enough. Let me tell you, we're also focused on these relationships with our family, relationships with our friends, and this is fine, this is great, but too often people are neglecting the most important relationship of them all. It's the relationship in which they have with themselves. This is the closest relationship you have in your life. No one has spent the same amount of time with yourself as yourself. No one has been there for yourself as much as you have done yourself. And yet we neglect this relationship. We don't treat it with the importance in which it needs. We don't give it the credit. We don't even give ourselves enough credit. So be kinder to yourself. Practice good habits and eliminate the bad ones, you know. You wouldn't want your family or friends to smoke, right? You wouldn't want your family or friends to be broke, to be lazy, to not exercise. You wouldn't want your family and friends to eat badly, hang out with shitty friends, or not seek growth, right? So focus on these things. Develop the relationship you have with yourself. Treat yourself better and stop holding yourself back, okay? Treat yourself the same as you would your family and your friends. So with that, that's the end of today's episode. I really do hope that you did enjoy it, and I really do hope that you guys stop holding yourself back in the future, because so many of us do. Again, I do truly hope that you did enjoy today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. So there you go. That's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.